Just a friendly disclaimer, this video will be a rant style video. These will not be constructive reviews and critiques of these books. This will be a rant, okay? Reviews of these books already exist on this channel and on my Bookstagram for the most part. So if that's what you're looking for in this video, 1, that's not what you're gonna get, and 2, I'm not gonna hold back, and 3, I cuss a lot, okay? I will not be responsible for your feelings. I am warning you now, if you see your favorite book on the thumbnail and do not want to hear a violent rant about it, I would suggest going somewhere else. Yes? Hey everybody, and welcome back, or welcome if you are new. Hello, hi. So today we are going to continue on with the trend of end of the year wrap-ups. I've posted my best books of 2022, or have I? I don't know which of these videos I'm going to be putting up first. But today we're going to be doing my worst books of 2022. Now, I read 220 books in the year of 2022, and I had a really hard time narrowing the supreme pieces of Okay, so rather than do a top 10, since I read so many books this year, I did a top 15. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about the 15 worst books I've read this year. Now, before I get into it, I know that some people do have issues. They say it's too mean, it's inappropriate. I just want to preface this by saying that 1, I'm not coming for these authors, okay? BookTube review channels are a space for readers, not for authors. So if you're an author, there's the door, just get out of here. And number 2, these are my opinions, okay? So if you're the kind of person who gets their fucking shit all constipated because of other people's opinions on the internet, go get a hobby or something, go touch some grass. You can disagree with me, but if you do, I don't give a fuck, okay? I do not give a flying fuck. So that was your warning. I'm gonna be really ranty and I'm not gonna hold back. With that being said, here are the 15 books that made me want to get punched in the face this year, and I'm not into that. So that's the vibe, okay? At number 15, we have Neon Gods by Katie Robert. Now, this book, okay, this fucking book. So this book was sold to me as a dark romance, smutty retelling of the Hades and Persephone story from the ancient Greek gods, okay? Bitch, what the hell was this shit? What the fuck? I went in expecting to clutch my pearls. That didn't happen. This was the most boring ass, vanilla ass, like such lame hetero. Here's the thing, this is a smutty book that takes place in the ancient Greeks version of hell. Okay, I was expecting depravity. I was expecting the glass dildos and the fucking like contraptions to be whipped out and the blood play and the breath play and the blood kink. None of that happens. This is the most like vanilla ass, lame ass, like basic hetero boring ass book that I have ever fucking read, and 0 stars out of 0 stars. It was awful. At one point, they are shopping for pets near the end. It's so like sweet and like saccharine, and like Hades starts off as like the bad guy. He starts off as like the oh, I'm brooding. I am like really like I don't know what I was doing. What the fuck am I doing? Anyway, he starts off as like the, you know, emo kind of dude, but then near the end of the story, because Persephone's magical is all just like bright and sunshine and rainbows, he gets all like happy and is willing to open up. Dude, fuck that. No, literally not the vibe. No, I did not sign up for some golden retriever ass sparkly bullshit. You can take that and you can enjoy it in that corner if you like that shit, but in this corner, we like Diesel Viper, okay? That's my thing. Number 14 is a book that will likely piss some people off. Oh, do you like the fact that I'm dressed like a Karen today? I did that shit on purpose. I mean, look, if I'm gonna get yelled at, might as well just look the part, right? Especially with this next book. Oh my gosh, y'all better strap it in. The reason I read this book was because I was under the impression that it was gonna be good. It was not. It had so many good reviews on Goodreads from you guys, and I'm not saying that I distrust you now, except I'm saying that with my full chest. I am completely saying I fucking distrust you now after this book, and that is The Exorcist's House by Nick Roberts. If your last name is Roberts, I'm never gonna read your book ever again. After Nick, after Katie, we're done. Okay, so this fucking book. This book was supposedly a exorcist horror story, and it was, in the most basic sense. Like literally the most formulaic, boring ass PG-13 bullshit was what this book was. If you have never read a horror book before, and if you have never seen a film with an exorcism happening, maybe you will like this book, but if you've seen that before, you have read this book before. Trust me. Dumb white family moves into house. The basement is boarded up. I will give you -3 seconds to guess what was in that basement, okay? Are we done? And then in the end, when the holy water is whipped out and they have to do the exorcism and the priest fucks up, dude, it is literally a box-ticking exercise in cliche. I was listening to the audiobook and my friend was sitting across me and I was literally just giving her like a play-by-play, recounting every single thing that was happening in that book, and she was cracking up. Like, she was just like laughing her ass off. Okay, so next we have The Wild by Kate Webster, and this was when I was going through my smut phase, which was the entirety of 2022. So I was looking for some taboo dark romance, and this book came to my attention through TikTok. Yeah, so this book, I didn't know what it was going into it. I just knew that there was like some attractiveness on the cover. And this is a book about a romance between a father and his daughter. I really don't need to explain why I fucking hate this book so much. It was very short. I finished it for some reason, and even with that plot twist, which I'm not going to divulge, this book was just vile. Curiosity killed the cat. I just cannot believe I did that. And sadly, this is not the only instance of you will see on this list, okay? So at number 12 is another book that will definitely piss some people off, okay? But if I haven't stopped then, why would I stop now? In my dreams, I hold a knife. In my dreams, I hold a boring pair of fucking scissors by Ashley Winstead. I don't get it. I literally do not get it, okay? I was told that this book was non-stop, funny, salacious tea. Now, when I hear that a book, specifically a thriller, has like domestic tea, like, you know, people cheating on each other and shit like that, I am frothing at the mouth. But this book, despite the fact that it had every single thing that could invest me in a thriller, was just so fucking bad. The storyline and the problems that the characters had with one another were just so shallow and superficial. It was very much college setting, sorority house, fraternity house. They're gonna be building some floats. They have like relationships with one another, and they're all pissed that this guy is dating this girl and this guy is secretly dating this guy and this girl slept with this guy, and at some point someone gets killed. And honestly, in the chapters where we spend time with the bitch who gets killed, I was literally cheering for her death the entire fucking time, okay? And when we find out everything at the end, when all is said and done, I was just so underwhelmed. It was predictable, honestly. And the main character, Jessica, fuck this bitch. I swear, I literally, from now on, I literally hate the name Jessica, like, because of this book. Because of this book, I will literally hate you if your name is Jessica. I'm not kidding. Look me in the eye. Do I look like I'm fucking kidding? Yeah, she was ugly, awful, terrible. Don't recommend it. One of the worst I've read all year. So at number 11, Wild, Wild, Wild Life. This manga over here. The cover is so explicit, I don't even know if I can put it on the screen. Now, okay, so, have you heard the term yaoi before? That's basically manga, but the gays, and they are often written by women for an audience of women. But despite that, I grew up reading this stuff, okay? And manga of this genre has a very negative reputation of being fetish bait. So you know how some men would sexualize women in their movies, lesbians, but it's actually not lesbian stories. It's rather a straight man fantasizing over women's bodies and fetishizing them for a male audience to get off. If you see a movie where two Victoria's Secret models scissoring, you know, okay, a man definitely wrote this. And it's kind of the same concept with this manga, like when you see two ridiculously attractive Adonis-bodied men just, right? Now, this is something I do push back on, because despite the fact that titles of this sort do exist and do make up a sizable chunk of the genre, I would know. I read so much of it, and I read so much of it when I was very young. Despite all that, there are some titles that do push back against this notion, you know, like Gravitation and Given and even Blue Flag. But this one literally embraces every single disgusting, nasty stereotype that I have just mentioned. It is not even a story. Like, it is literally no story. It is just one book which has several chapters. Each chapter has a different story, and each story is literally just it is just like, literally, and it's not just but it's also okay? It is non-consensual, full-on non-con. The word no is said so many times, and despite that, the act is done regardless. Not only that, but there is a story involving minors, like prepubescent minors, drawn in extremely graphic detail, which made me want to vomit, okay? This material is frankly disgusting, and I am ashamed that this exists, and frankly just ashamed and disappointed that there is a market that patronizes stuff like this. If you're telling a horror story depicting this thing as bad and, you know, not fetishizing it, then it could work. But if you are writing these things for the explicit purpose of titillating an audience, like for no other reason but to do that, then sorry. Nope. Burn it. Burn it. Burn it. Burn it. If you have this on your shelf, I will literally block you. Okay, so at number 10, and now we have like the big ass, like the ones. These are the books, the worst books of 2022. At number 10, we have Azula by Seven Rue. Now, I have a full video telling you, the viewer, about every single abhorrent thing that happens in this book, and I am a seasoned degenerate, okay? But this novel is literally about a 16-year-old girl who one summer decides to f her whole entire family. Dad, uncle, brothers, cousin. That is literally the entire book. It is wall to wall. Now, if this was like an extreme horror book that commented on the disgustingness of doing something like that, then of course I would, you know, have a different reaction to it. If this book ended with a lesson or with murder, then okay, maybe you can't entirely justify it, but I can see how something like that would make sense. This book doesn't end with murder. It ends with happiness and pregnancy. Yes, that was a spoiler, but I literally do not fucking care, okay? Downvote me, rant about me on Twitter, but if you're gonna be on Twitter defending this fucking book, bitch, I don't wanna be you, okay? Think about what you are doing with your life. So these books were offensive, and to suggest that something is offensive does suggest that it was effective in some way. This book, number 9, was just a fucking why was this written, okay? Without You by Marley Valentine. So I saw this book making the rounds on Bookstagram, and this was when I was going through my phase. So I was looking for something hot, something heavy. This was so bad. It was so fucking stale and boring and just such a freaking waste of time. So the setup was promising. We followed this guy who's going home and his brother died and his brother's boyfriend is in that place, but they were fighting and then they get into this thing and I was like, ooh, this is gonna be juicy and salacious. It was not. This was some fucking chicken soup for the teenage soul bullshit. It was so torturous to read. And yes, there is some spice, but it was just so lame. It was like male scene written by straight woman. I felt like I was reading a hetero scene. I felt like I was reading some basic hetero boring bullshit. It is just sitting around and talking about feelings and opening up about emotions and just, you know, like coming to terms with the past and the feelings, and I was like, fuck your feelings, I want to see that. It was just not a fun time for me, and even when the feelings were discussed, even with this formula, there are good books with this formula. If you read the book Saint by Sierra Simone, that was a book that dealt with a lot of heavy feelings and emotions, but the way those feelings and emotions were discussed was in a very deep, nuanced way that did have so much commentary. The way these topics were discussed in this book was like the most baseline, boring, shallow, surface level, trivial bullshit. It was bad. It was just not a good time all around, dislike, goodbye. At number 8, we have another fucking nothing of a book, and that is We Had to Remove This Post. Who's this book by? Beats me. It's about someone who is like working as a censorer. I think they work for Twitter or something, and they have to decide when certain content gets reported is worthy of being banned. So all day they see the most disgusting, depraved shit, but this book takes that interesting premise and does nothing with it. Nothing. Literally nothing happens in this fucking book. It is just literally nothing happening, and then at the very end you have a cliffhanger that makes you wonder why you just bothered. And honestly, I don't fucking remember anything from this book. I just remember fucking hating it. I have a review on Goodreads where I pretty much say the same thing I'm saying now, and frankly, since this book was so unmemorable, I'm just done talking about it, okay? Next. At number 7 is another fucking nothing of a book, and that is, okay, so you might be wondering, given the egregiousness of books like Wild Wild Wildlife and Azula, you might be wondering why those books didn't rank higher. And it's because if a book is truly awful and truly offensive, but truly shocking, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference, okay? Now, I hated those books, but the fact that they brought out some anger and passion in me did make me like somewhat glad that I read them, because, you know, bashing them was cathartic. These books that we're gonna talk about are ones that I just didn't give a fucking rat's ass about. Books that I was genuinely shocked to find out that someone actually took time out in their day to get passionate about this story and put it to page. That's what these books are, okay? So next up, number 7 is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. This book is about a woman who decides that she is... I fucking don't remember this book. I think this is the one about the woman who decides that she's going to sleep for a whole year, so she takes all these pills to knock herself out. I don't know how she didn't die, frankly. And she's got mommy issues, but she's a privileged white girl. And I think this book is maybe a commentary on the privileged upper class white girl entitled kind of person, but it's like the bling ring, you know? I mean, it depicts and critiques a certain kind of person, but in order for you to have that critique sink in, you are required to spend 2 hours with that movie with these kinds of shallow people. In this book, you're required to spend 9 hours via audiobook with this insufferable person, and she isn't even uninteresting in an interesting way. There isn't that underlying commentary here that makes you laugh with the author at how ridiculous the person is. No, it is literally just a fucking annoying woman for 9 straight hours. It is so boring, it is so bland. This book was absolute torture to endure. It was awful. If this woman wants to sleep for an entire year, just read the book that's about you, because you are boring. And maybe this is the point of the book, but still, it was bad. I didn't like it. And my legs are falling asleep because talking about this book put them to sleep. So give me 1 second to just walk around the room. I will be back.
Later that day.
Alright, so at number 6, and we are getting into the shit, okay? At number 6, I have one that I'm so glad to see on so many other people's worst of the year list, because I thought I was the only one. No, I'm not. This book is literally hated by everyone, and that is The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. Now, I went into this book with an open mind, although I had a very not so good track record with Paul Tremblay prior. I did recently, last year, read the book Cabin at the End of the World, and I read it for my birthday vlog. I do recommend watching that vlog to see what I did on my birthday. It was really fun, and I had a lot of amazing things to say about that book because I really loved it. So with that being said, I went into this book optimistic because I did love that book. But this book was a travesty. It was terrible. It was absolutely soul-draining to endure. And this book literally took every single thing that I have hated about Paul Tremblay's books in the past. The meta self-commentary that is built into the book, the pretentious nature of the writing, and the insufferably annoying characters, and it crammed every single thing I hated into this book. Art Barbara. How does someone think of a character this bland and vapid and say, you know what, I want to spend like 3 months or however long it takes to write a novel with this guy. Like, I can't fathom how Paul Tremblay came up with the motivation to even write this book. Like, this book was a chore to read, so I can't even think about how something like this would be an interesting thing to write. What? It was just a disaster. It was terrible, and the story literally went nowhere. It was a horror book that purported to be a horror book that had literally nothing horrific, thrilling, or tense in it at all. It was just a series of unconnected events. The only thing holding this story together was the spine of the book, okay? If you want to see me make that joke once more and get my more in-depth thoughts of the book, I do recommend looking at my vlog. I'll try to link that down below, but regardless, bad stuff. At number 5, we have another book that has strengthened my resolve to never ever ever take a book recommendation from Jimmy fucking Fallon ever again, and that is The Plot by Jean Korelitz. Whoever this woman is, I will never be reading a book by her ever again, because this book was horrible. This entire book is built around this guy who plagiarized a plot that was told to him by someone who dies in the story, and he publishes his own book with that plot twist and gets famous, and he gets accused somewhere down the line of plagiarism. So he spirals and his life gets completely undone because he feels like someone's after him despite having achieved all this success. And the plot that is supposedly so good that no one can mess it up even if they tried, the plot that was turned into a Steven Spielberg movie in the universe of this book, was so unbelievably underwhelming. It was literally some Lifetime movie bullshit, and I can't even put into words how stupid this plot twist was and how I wanted to punch myself in the face for all this time I spent reading this dumb book only for it to end up in that place. And like, people who are saying that this is the best plot twist ever, what? Why? Literally just why? I'm super curious. Please let me know. I don't get it. I literally don't get it. So we went from violent hate to indifference to confusion. Now we're gonna go into like blatant incompetency, okay? At number 4 is a book written by an author who I feel like has gotten kidnapped and is somewhere hiding in the woods. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Do you guys know about that whole Avril Lavigne conspiracy theory about the fact that she's dead and some clone or some lookalike has taken her place? I fully believe that this is the case with Riley Sager, okay? I am fully convinced that this man was murdered to death and has a clone or a stand-in writing these new books, going to his events and just pretending to be him, because there is no fucking way in hell that the guy, that the author, the literary genius who wrote Final Girls, Last Time I Lied, Home Before Dark, Lock Every Door, wrote this book. Okay, there's no way I can cram every single thing of my thoughts, because I have like 35 minutes worth of angry thoughts on this book. So I do advise you to go watch my spoiler vlog on The House Across the Lake. It's on my channel. Every single thing about this book, from the characters, to the twists, to the setting, was just so unbelievably uninspired to me. The plot sounds like a blatant ripoff of the book The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, and The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn was a blatant ripoff of Rear Window, okay? So Riley Sager isn't ripping off something good, he's ripping off the ripoff, and in addition to ripping off the ripoff, he puts on this twist near the end. The main twist in this book made me want to pull my own fucking hair out. And the writing was garbage. The word bourbon comes out 73 times in this book. Dude, hello? Like, it was just basic and boring. It's a book about a bunch of dumb, white, pretty people in peril that goes literally nowhere, that's so boring, has a stupid ass twist at the end, and I am done talking about it now. Okay, so at number 3, we have Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine Valente. What the fuck was this shit? What the hell was this? So you know how Jennifer Lawrence got under fire recently for proclaiming that she was the very first female action star, the very first female woman to ever be in an action role, in the leading role in an action movie? She's full of shit, right? But in this case, I can completely say that she can come in and say she did it first. Because if you've seen the film, you've seen this book. And it's a spoiler to say that, but I don't care. It is just so lacking in characters, setting, story, engagement, thrills, a failure on every single department that I just mentioned, and a twist at the end that just made me so mad. I was like, that's the fucking twist? Like, that, can thrillers just stop with this bullshit, please? So now we're gonna get into the books that I am offended that they even exist. I wish that I could will them out of existence. These next books rank among the most awful things that I have ever read in my existence, okay? At number 2, we have House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I don't just hate this book. This book made me so angry that it even existed that I want to literally burn my copy of this book. Now, before we play the assumption game, some of you might be saying that I am just some other bitch booktuber that shits on Sarah J. Maas because she's successful, and to which I say, fuck off, okay? Number 1, Throne of Glass is literally my favorite book series of all time. I don't care if I get called a basic bitch. When the pandemic hit and I was super depressed, those books helped me through my darkest moments, and I don't care if I read a better series. I don't care if anyone can make the case for there being other series that are objectively better than Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass is my entire heart, and I love it so fucking much, and I always will, and I will always bow down to Sarah J. Maas for writing those books and just giving me that journey when I needed it the most, okay? ACOTAR, although I didn't like the first ACOTAR book, the other books were all 5 stars for me. A Court of Silver Flames especially, oh my gosh, Nesta Archeron, I love her so fucking much. Those books are also precious. These fucking Crescent City books need to fuck off. I hate them. I literally hate them. Bryce and Hunt, fuck these people. I want them dead. I want them to die in the next book. I want that whole cast to just fucking die. I want the next book to just be 50 pages of the cast getting brutally tortured the whole time, and Sarah J. Maas coming out with an apology saying that she accidentally wrote these books because she fell on her computer and got drunk and accidentally typed these 2 800-page fucking books out. These books are terrible. For those of you who want me to elaborate, I do have a 20-minute video rant on this book specifically, so do look for that on this channel. Long story short, nothing happens in this book. Every single character is awful. If your name is Danica, I will punch you in the face. I will literally go to jail and do time just so I can punch you in the face because of how much this book has made me hate every single person named Danica forever. And the fucking twist, oh my gosh. The direction this story is going in because of that twist is offensive. When I read that last line, I was crossing my fingers the whole time that it wasn't gonna happen, and when I read that last line, I threw that book on the floor. Flicked it, I like smashed it on the floor. It was just, I wrote a giant fuck you on that last page. I'm getting war flashbacks just thinking about that shit. Okay, so we're done talking about this book. Number 1, the biggest piece of shit that I have read in the year of 2022. I will give you -3 seconds to guess in the comments down below. I'm gonna just, state the obvious and say 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. If you were there when me, Gabby, Katie, and Marcy did that live show on the Book Troop, you will know, okay? You will know.
I can describe Peter Swanson's writing process. He rolled out a newspaper, took a giant shit on it, and smeared the shit on the newspaper. Peter Swanson is your name, so we're just gonna publish anything you literally defecate out.
Tell us how you really feel, Michael.
Yeah. The appropriate place to put that note is up his ass, where his head is. That's where he should put the note, okay? I'm gonna say that. It's about people getting hunted down one by one, and I didn't give a single fucking butt-ass shit about any of these fucking people. Yeah, I totally agree that the kills were so lame. It's like, spoiler alert, Matthew, this book's a fucking piece of shit. Okay, you don't need to read it. Go read something else, preferably Karen Slaughter or Survivor by J.F. Gonzalez, okay? That's how you do that, okay?
I genuinely implore you to go search that live show up, even if you read the book, because you should not be reading this book. It is atrocious. But I do implore you to go watch that show. That is the most fun I've had on a live show ever. I tore that book anew. Okay, and this is coming from someone who was super intending on liking this book. Peter Swanson wrote The Kind Worth Killing and every Value Break. And those two books, even though they get mixed reviews on Goodreads and on BookTube and Bookstagram, I loved those books, okay? So I went into this book having loved every single thing that I had read from Peter Swanson prior, and this book destroyed every single last hope I had in ever liking a book by this author ever again. It was just disgusting. So with that being said, those were the worst books I read in the year 2022. Also, just popping in real quick, if you made it this far into the video, please leave the rage emoji, because just in case some people did not take my advice at the beginning of the video during the disclaimer section, I definitely know for sure that some people will be real mad, okay? Good luck to all of us this year. Oh boy. So with that being said, I hope to see you all in future videos, and take care.